Dear brothers and sisters, I welcome you all to hear and see this video message. Today we are going to pray for Muslim community in India. In India, Muslims are 14% of our population, but they have merely 5% of the political representation in Loksabha from the independents. Because of this, their voices, their issues is not heard from Republic of India. In India, 80 parliamentary constituencies have more than 20% of the Muslim population. So, election commission should make the delimitation process and makes this at least 76 constituency according to their population should make a Muslim reservation constituency as like SC and ST reservation constituency for parliament and assemblies. Since 2014, the Muslim community facing more atrocities and violence by Hindu fundamentalists. So, we should pray for the parliament should enact Communal Violence Bill and Equal Opportunity Bill in India. Muslims are most marginalized and deprived, downtrodden community in India. So, like SC and ST reservation which is happened in India, the affirmative action for 14% of reservation should be given to Muslim community according to their backwardness. This should help them to empower in socio-economic indices. This video content have around 37 pages. So I make it in a Google Drive link through in description. You can go through that and study that. எனக்கு மிகவும் பிரியமான சகோதரிகளே சகோதரிகளே, இயேசு கிறிஸ்துவின் நாமத்தினாலே நீங்கள் இந்த வீடியோவை பார்ப்பதற்காகவும் இதை கேட்பதற்காகவும் நான் உங்களை அன்புடன் அழைக்கிறேன். இன்றைக்கு நாம் ஜெபிக்க வேண்டிய ஜெபக்குறிப்பு இந்தியாவில் உள்ள நமது முஸ்லிம் சகோதரர்களுக்காக சகோதரிகளுக்காக. இந்தியாவிலே முஸ்லிம்கள் 138 கோடியிலே 14 விழுக்காடு இருந்து கொண்டிருக்கிறார்கள். ஆனால் இவர்களுடைய பொலிட்டிக்கல் ரெப்ரசன்டேஷன் ஆனது மிகவும் குறைவாக 5% தான். இந்தியா சுதந்திரம் அடைந்ததிலிருந்து லோக்சபாவிலே பார்லிமெண்டிலே இருந்து கொண்டிருக்கிறது. அதனாலே இவர்களுடைய குறைகள் இவர்களுடைய பிரச்சனைகள் சரியாக விவாதிக்கப்படாதபடிக்கு இன்றைக்கும் இந்த முஸ்லிம் சகோதரர்கள் மிகவும் கஷ்டப்பட்டு கொண்டிருக்கிறார்கள். வேதம் சொல்கிறது, கர்த்தர் ஆகாரின் அழுகுரலை கேட்டார். அதாவது இஸ்மவேல் தண்ணீர் இல்லாமல் சாவதற்கு இருக்கக்கூடிய நிலைமையிலே அதை பார்த்து ஆகார் அழக்கூடிய ஒரு காரியத்தை நமது ஆண்டவர் பார்த்தார், கேட்டார். அது மாத்திரமல்ல, ஆபிரகாமிடம் அவர் சொன்னது, நீ இஸ்மவேலுக்காகவும் வேண்டிக் கொண்ட விண்ணப்பத்தை கேட்டேன், அவன் ஒரு பெரிய ஜாதியாக்குவேன் என்று நமது ஆண்டவர் சொல்லியிருக்கிறார். ஆகவே நமது பின்தங்கிய முஸ்லிம் சமூகத்திற்காக ஜெபிக்க வேண்டியது நமது கடமையாக இருக்கிறது. கடந்த 8 வருடமாக முஸ்லிம் மக்கள் அதிகமாக வன்முறையினாலும் மத துவேஷத்தினாலும் பாதிக்கப்பட்டு கொண்டிருக்கிறார்கள். இதை தடுப்பதற்காக கம்யூனல் வயலன்ஸ் பில் அண்ட் ஈக்குவல் ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டி பில் இந்திய நாடாளுமன்றத்திலே ஏற்றப்பட வேண்டும். மேலும் அவர்கள் பொருளாதார ரீதியிலே பெரும்பாலான மக்கள் மிகவும் பின்தங்கிய ஒரு இன்ஃபார்மல் செக்டாரிலே வேலை பார்த்து கொண்டிருக்கிறார்கள். இவர்களுடைய வாழ்க்கை தரத்தை மேம்படுத்துவதற்காக நமது எஸ்சி எஸ்டி சகோதரர்களுக்கு கொடுத்திருக்கிற ரிசர்வேஷனை போல இந்த மக்கள் தொகைக்கு ஏற்ப 14 விழுக்காடு மற்றும் ஹரிஜாண்டல் ரிசர்வேஷன் அவர்களுடைய கல்விக்கும் வேலைவாய்ப்புக்கும் கொடுத்தால் மாத்திரமே நமது முஸ்லிம் சகோதரர்கள் அவர்களுடைய பொருளாதார நிலைமையிலும் சமூகத்திலேயும் முன்னேற முடியும். இந்த ஜெபக்குறிப்புக்காக நாம் ஜெபிப்போம். இந்த வீடியோ கண்டென்ட் ஆனது மிகவும் அதிகமாக 37 பேஜ் இருக்கிறதுனாலே இதை தனியாக கூகுள் டிரைவ் லிங்கிலே டிஸ்கிரிப்ஷனிலே கொடுத்திருக்கிறேன். நீங்கள் படித்து தெரிந்து கொள்ளலாம். இப்பொழுது நான் வாசிக்கிறேன், கவனியுங்கள். India is a country of religious, ethnic, linguistic diversity. Its estimated 200 million Muslims, world third largest Muslim population, most of whom identify as Sunni, account for about 14% of the population, by far the largest minority group. Hindus make up about 80% of the population. Based on Muslim population, the ideal number of Muslim MPs in the Loksabha should be 76. However, there are only 5% Muslim representative in the 17th Loksabha after the 2019 Parliament election, same as the average Muslim representation in the Lok Sabha since independence. One of the reasons behind fewer Muslim representatives in the political arena has been the reluctance of the political parties to nominate Muslim candidates for fear of alienating other voters in the constituency. In the period after independence, it was the long shadow of the partition that continued to influence the political choices of the political elites. The winnability of a candidate has been the prime consideration while deciding the party candidature generally. The reluctance of more established parties to accommodate Muslim candidates stemmed from their assessment that most of them had bleak electoral prospects against the BJP. In an election fought on a hyper nationalist platform, the fear of losing support amongst the majority Hindu community made the political parties cautious when it came to nominating Muslims. To counter this, political parties have followed a strategy of nominating Muslim candidates from the Muslim clusters constituency only. The decline in the Muslim representation in the Lok Sabha has coincided with the ideological consolidation of the Hindu right under the BJP. The rise of the BJP and the conservative ideology and the issue came to represent further shrunk this little political space available to the Indian Muslims. The political mobilization along religious lines was further neutralized by the rise of caste mobilization. In 2019, there were 25 Muslim representatives elected to the Lok Sabha compared to the 22 in the previous one. The 25 Muslim legislators in the 17th Loksabha are from 11 different parties and come from 8 different states and 2 union territories. In the last 3 parliamentary elections, Muslim representatives have mainly been elected from constituencies where the community comprised at least 40% of the population. A majority of Muslim representatives in the Lok Sabha since 1952 have come from just 4 states: Uttarpradesh, West Bengal, Bihar and Kerala, and the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. This is not surprising because as per the 2011 census, 46% of the Muslims in India reside in just 3 states, that is Uttarpradesh, West Bengal and Bihar. Both Jammu and Kashmir and Kerala account for just 5% of the Muslim population in the country. The other states with sizable Muslim populations are Assam and Telangana. Southern 4 states, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu together account for 1/6 of the total Muslim population in the country. Therefore, Muslims are not only a dispersed minority but are also substantially outnumbered in comparison to other social groups in a majority of Indian states. As per the 2011 census data, 40% of the Muslims in India reside in urban areas. This is much higher than any other religious groups in India and makes the community most urbanized in India. Need of Pan-India Muslim Party. The lack of representation of Muslims in electoral politics is not a crisis of recent origin. It prevailed even since the birth of Republic. The recent meteoric electoral rise of the BJP has only amplified this trend and aggravated the political marginalization of Muslims. Muslims are not satisfied with any mainstream political party. All the parties have failed to reflect the community aspiration in parliament and in state assemblies. Most of the leaders and parties have tended to use Muslims as vote bank and never made any serious effort to help the community on socio-economic issues. Since independence, the political participation of Indian Muslims has been a matter of debate. After the 2014 general election, Muslim intellectuals are more actively discussing Muslims and their contribution to national politics. In the current scenario, political parties are treating Muslims as sutra or untouchable, especially because there is no option available for Muslim voters. Their votes are for free. They don't have a choice but the existential fear of BJP. And this has been misused by the so-called secular parties of India. Since the 90s, India's political space has increasingly been occupied by sectarian parties based on caste, religion or region. Major players in the category include the Shiv Sena, Samajwadi Party, Bahujan Samaj Party, Rashtriya Janata Dal United, Trinamool Congress, Telugu Desam Party and YSR Congress and Janata Dal Secular in Karnataka. The notable missing community in the sectarian explosion has been Muslims. Muslim issues on a large scale were never discussed at the political level in order to bridge the gap between the community and existing political parties. After the rise of hardline Hindutva politics in the country, a large section of Muslims has started to understand the importance of their separate leaderships. The older generation of Muslim leadership is seen as having been culturally divorced from the concern of ordinary Muslims, compromised as they were by their association with secular parties. Muslims are now fed up with the treatment they have been received from secular parties. Muslims are not happy in the temporary shelters of secular parties because secular parties do not consider them as partners or stakeholders, rather consider them as a burden. Even politically active Muslims are not in influential or leadership positions within the secular parties, thus limiting the reach and depth of Muslim issues in secular parties. The share of Muslims in political life is falling election after election due to the blind faith they put in so-called secular parties. There is a sense in the Muslim community that secular parties like Indian National Congress have betrayed the Muslims. So during the last decade, Muslims have launched the new political parties, showing that community is now ready to demand its share in national politics. The condition of Muslim can't be improved at large and strongly advocates the need for community-based party that will raise issues of Muslims with honesty. Despite the necessity for minority representation in a democracy, the truth is that Muslim politicians essentially cannot do better the lot of the Muslim masses. Their positions and power within the mainstream political parties is limited to getting a few votes. Their own self-interest, insecurity and likely inability to connect with the Muslim masses because of the repeated failure to deliver have rendered most of them irrelevant within their own parties. It is true that secular parties today are unable to give voices to the problem faced by Muslims because the moment they do so, it will help the BJP polarize. That's all the more reason why Muslims need to have their own voice. After independence, the Muslim League, which is founded by Jinnah, was renamed as the Indian Union Muslim League. Its objective of becoming an all India national party never received countrywide acceptance and it's managed to exist only in the state of Kerala. Muslims, like any other social group in India, are divided across caste, language, region, class and even religious lines. Muslims' politics in India is not homogeneous. There are many differences within Muslim community. All Muslim communities' interests are not same or equal. This internal diversity actually determines the nature of political engagement of Muslims at various levels. For example, the response of the Muslims to regional politics in Kerala cannot be compared with Muslim politics of Uttarpradesh, partly because of their incomparable caste class configuration and partly because of state specific political dynamics. Muslims voters have chosen different parties in different states. The CPI Marxist in Bengal, the Rashtriya Janata Dal in Bihar, the regional Samajwadi party in Uttarpradesh, the DMK party in Tamil Nadu and the Congress in the other parts of the country. Politically speaking, there is no single unified Muslim community in India. Many Muslim politicians could not resist the temptation to create a Muslim-only political party to address the problem. The scattered Muslim voters are also responsible for their treatment by political parties. Given the fact that Muslim population is scattered all over the country and Indian politics is more about creating a winnable social engineering, no Muslim party could have achieved much success. There are many Muslim political parties established at state level, that is Indian Union Muslim League Kerala, Majlis-e-Ittihadul Muslimin Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, All India United Democratic Front AIUDF Assam, People's Democratic Conference of India from West Bengal has merged with AIUDF, Welfare Party of India West Bengal, Social Democratic Party of India West Bengal, All India Ulama Council Uttarpradesh and Peace Party Uttarpradesh, Indian National League Kerala and People Democratic Party Kerala. These are Muslim political parties in India. The nature of these Muslim political parties is regional, sub-regional and urban. Rural Muslim community are not represented through these Muslim political parties, but no all India glued to hold all Muslim parties together. Though Muslim lead parties such as the AIMIM, IUML and AIUDF have been successfully mainly in Muslim dominated constituencies, these parties do not claim to exclusively represent Muslim interest. The nature of electoral competition at the constituency level makes them reach out to other social groups even in their respective strongholds. Muslims support them not because these parties exclusively represent their interest, but because of the absence of viable political alternatives. The Congress complains that AIMIM splits anti-BJP votes and helps the suffragette crowd. The AIMIM can be a vote splitter if it fights independently of the main anti-BJP front. But if coordinated with all Muslim political parties and join the main anti-BJP front, will become a vote consolidator and not a splitter. The argument between secular and Muslim parties on the matter of who constitutes the true representative of Muslim citizens has been encoded in the very foundation of our republic. It is time for Muslim leaders to sit together and consider whether political parties of Muslims faction are the best way of serving the Indian Muslims' interest. Muslim political parties should join hands with other political parties that are not fascist and not communal in India and think beyond Muslims and be a problem solver. Mediocre Muslim political leaders. Even university educated, professionally qualified Muslims sought a political career. They felt compelled to co-opt with ulema. This gave rise to the perception that to represent Muslims, the leader must be or at least appear to be religiously conservative. A Muslim mainstream politician therefore started carrying a twin burden. He would need to appear to be devout for the benefit of his Muslim constituents and flaunt his liberal credential to his party and possibly non-Muslim voters, lest he be considered illiberal or communal. A consequence of this balancing act has been that Muslim politicians are reluctant to raise issues that genuinely affect the community and call for changes in government policy or even the accountability of law enforcement agencies. Instead, Muslim political attitude is often reduced to one that is aimed at protecting a few identity-based issues as ulema direct such as the production of Islam, Urdu language, Muslim personal law and so on. Muslims till now have allowed themselves to be led by religious and political leaders who promised to get them group privileges. There is widespread concern about the poor quality of political leadership among Muslims. Even those who are honest, selfless and well-intentioned are seen as too focused on short-term goals and struggles and lagging in vision about how the practice of politics can strategically advance long-term welfare and status of Muslims. There is the usual lament about the fact that Muslims have not been able to produce a leader of the caliber of Abdul Kalam Azad, India's first education minister and who was elected to the post of the President of the Indian National Congress on par with Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose. Though many national and regional political parties are originated, leadership has not emerged. Muslim voters, they do not have a pan-India leader from the community. The leadership of Indian Muslims is in South India, not in North India. Even the so-called secular parties which were getting the votes of the Muslims never allowed a Muslim leadership to emerge. Nothing could be achieved if minorities are not trained as leaders and offered an opportunity to lead the country and constituency. OIC has every potential to become a national leader of the Muslim community. He is fierce in his speeches, he is known for asking the right questions in the parliament, and above all, he is the only one talking about issues of the minority. While Muslims in India want increased participation in politics, but their elected Muslim representatives do not even ask the relevant question for the welfare of the Muslim community. Between 2012 and 2017, there were more than 60 MLAs from the Muslim community in the Uttarpradesh Assembly, but they did not speak out against the violence that happened in several parts of the Uttar Pradesh states against Muslims. The Muslim elites have not yet identified a legitimate language to counter Hindutva. So mere numbers won't work. Muslims require quality leaders who can make intervention both inside and outside the legislative area. Interestingly, a small section of this Muslim conformist has also aligned itself with Hindu right wing. The BJP has always had a few token Muslim politicians in its rank. These politicians are projected to seem bigger than the influence they really wield both within the party and amongst the voters. However, these representatives of inclusiveness are so powerless that they are unable to register even a token protest when their fellow right-wing hardliners victimize Muslims. Ashrafs remained the representative body of the entire Muslim community, though the Pasmandas constitute over 80% of the Muslim population. Most of the top politicians, religious leaders, landlords, bureaucrats, academicians, journalists in Muslim society unfortunately become to the Ashraf category. Bracketing the Pasmandas in a vote bank group of effective strength in the multi-party secular democratic polity, the Ashraf community used them as a market commodity and enjoyed substantial share in the political, academic, economic and administrative space in the country by bargaining initially with the Congress and later with almost all the political parties with their vote banks. So Pasmanda's political leadership should emerge in India to counter Ashraf Muslim hegemony. 5 of the 16 Loksabhas since independence have had no Muslim women members, and their numbers never crossed 4 in the 543 seat lower house of the parliament. Among Muslims, gender equivalence should be prompt. Electoral system FPTP, that is first past the post hurdles to Muslims. The spatial distribution of Muslims along with the continuation of first past the post system in independent India has been detrimental for Muslim political representation. Their spatial distribution has ensured that Muslims are a minority everywhere and therefore much more dependent upon the support of other groups for their political representation. Under the circumstances where the political systems veers towards Hindu majoritarianism, the FPTP system is often detrimental towards Muslim interests, as Hindu consolidation would prevent political parties from nominating candidates from an ethnic Muslim minority group due to the fear of alienating majority Hindu community voters. Hence, the ethnic minority Muslim candidates are more likely to be elected from constituencies with a large concentration of the Muslim cluster only. The FPTP system makes it difficult for a dispersed group to form a political platform exclusively representing their interests, as the exclusive pursuit of community interests might alienate others and prevent their preferred party from reaching a plurality at the constituency level. This is especially the case in the political context characterized by social and political mobilization along ethnic lines capable of adversely impacting the electability of their preferable candidate. Therefore, Muslim-led parties have either not met with electoral success or they have mostly succeeded in regions with a large concentration of Muslims. The success of the Indian Union Muslim League in Kerala, in All India Majlis Ittihadul Muslimin in Telangana, and All India United Democratic Front in Assam bears testimony to this. Even in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, Muslim representatives have mostly been elected from the Muslim majority Kashmir Valley only. How does a minority Muslim party survive and expand in a first past the post system in an era of majoritarian Hindu nationalism? First past the post system of election representation may easily be manipulated with unethical political coalition and spurious solidarities. Hindu majoritarianism is directly linked to the shrinking space for Muslims in the Indian political area, while the first past the post system that India inherited from British Raj only makes things worse. The first past the post system punishes minority Muslim communities which are not concentrated in pockets of the country by penalizing them with fewer seats per vote. The Indian Constitution too provides for political reservation for dispersed minorities. However, unlike other dispersed minority groups, the scheduled caste, for instance, compensatory mechanisms such as reserved seats do not exist for Muslims. Therefore, the political representation of Indian Muslims becomes conditional upon the support of other social groups. If we were to add the vote share of all non-Hindutva parties, we will obviously see that secular parties are way ahead of the BJP. They are just divided in a first past the post system. The geographical spread of the community makes the formation of an all India Muslim party not a viable proposition, as the community is a minority in a majority of Loksabha constituencies. Therefore, Muslim lead parties have either not met with success or they have been successful only in region with a large concentration of Muslims. So, remove FPTP electoral system and implement proportional representation in India. Political disempowerment of Muslims. India has a total of 4,121 assembly seats. In these seats, Muslims represents only 236, which is not more than 6%. The 28 Indian states put together have 530 cabinet seats and Muslims represent only 19 of the ministerial positions, that is 3.5%, which does not even make one minister per state. The onward march of the BJP since the 2014 Lok Sabha election has adversely affected Muslim representation in the state legislature as well. Muslim representatives constitute only 8% of the total legislative member in the state assemblies prior to the 2014 Lok Sabha election. The community representation in the state legislative after the last round of state assembly election in 2018 has reduced to 7%. Barring the state of Utterpradesh, which has one Muslim member in the cabinet, none of the states ruled by the BJP has any Muslim occupying a cabinet position. Uttar Pradesh has a Muslim population of 38.4 million, comprising 19.26% of the total state population, but has only one Muslim representative. Till a decade ago in Uttar Pradesh, Muslims were kingmakers and all secular parties, be it Congress party or Samajwadi party, has exploited them for their electoral gains. Like Uttar Pradesh, the northeastern state of Assam, where 10.4 million Muslims make up 34% of the total population, there is no Muslim holding a ministerial portfolio. It has 29 Muslim members in the state of assembly, of which none belongs to the BJP, which is in power in the state. The largest community goes unrepresented by the sovereign BJP party. The last Indian state, bearing Jammu and Kashmir, the sole majority province to have a Muslim chief minister, was Maharashtra, when the Congress party Abdul Rahman Andule was in power from mid 1980 to early 1982. After that, still now, not a single Muslim had been the chief minister of any state except Jammu and Kashmir. Each time the BJP conquers a new state, the number of Muslim MLAs drops. In no state with large Muslim population is the proportion of Muslim MLAs indicative of their share in the population. In 2007, The BJP did not field a single Muslim candidate in Uttarpradesh assembly. In Modi's home state of Gujarat, which also went to the polls in 2017, the BJP again failed to give a single ticket to Muslim candidates. But the right-wing party came to power in both states. The BJP has worked assiduously on the project of creating a Hindu-Muslim binary and proved that a party can rule India without the support of Muslim voters. All other secular parties are also fielding fewer Muslim candidates, evidently as a tactic to counter the BJP. States such as West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana have thou rejected the polarization blank of the BJP. Here too, Muslims have remained largely unrepresented. The West Bengal has about 27% of Muslims. Mamata Banerjee party won 220 of the 294 seats in the state and got support from the 67% of the Muslim voters. However, in her 51-member cabinet, Muslims get only 11% ministerial posts. Apart from BJP, all political parties are also equally responsible for the disempowerment of Muslims. The parties are using the Muslims community as a vote bank and have never tried for addressing their issues. Thus, community has pushed to margin at all levels. The nation cannot prosper in terms of social and economic fields without Muslims' proper share and participation in politics. More than 70% of the Muslims in the country living in deplorable conditions. Socioeconomic issues can be addressed with the community as a political voice. Political participation and political equality, most law-based and political frameworks is fundamentally egalitarian. Participatory democracy gives the space for the voice of voiceless communities. But ruling political party BJP having a kitten agenda of annihilating Muslims is the real challenge to the nation's inclusive model of development. Electoral politics of BJP with Muslims. The electoral success of the BJP was particularly due to its ability to galvanize the majority of Hindus as voting bloc and also ensuring that a significant number of them voted for the party. In 2019, the BJP lead NDA had the support of 51% of all Hindus. Most importantly, the BJP was supported by 44% of the combined Hindu electorates. The party succeeded in not only consolidating its hold over its traditional support base among the caste Hindus, more significantly, it's further improved its performance among Dalits and Hindu tribals. The massive consolidation of Hindu votes behind the BJP decimated the divided opposition and rendered the Muslim votes ineffective. As per the Loknadi CSDS post-poll election survey, the polarization of voters along Hindu-Muslim lines was acute in states with the higher percentage of Muslims. The rise of the BJP and its aggressively pursued majoritarian agenda in recent years has resulted in more pronounced Hindu-Muslim binary. Since the late 1980s, Muslim voting behavior has largely been shaped in a political context defined by the rise of Hindu nationalist BJP. The BJP core agenda is essentially majoritarian, which makes the Muslim community skeptical toward the BJP. Therefore, an important factor determining the voting preference of the Muslim community has been the ability of their chosen party to defeat the BJP. This was the first instance in the history of the independence India where the first ruling party BJP at the center did not have any representation from the Muslim community in the Loksabha since 2014. In 2014, it fielded 7 Muslim candidates out of 428 and none were elected. In 2009, BJP fielded 4 Muslim candidates and only one got elected. The BJP growth was catalyzed by the demolition of the Babri Masjid in 92, a mosque that many Hindus consider to be an Hindu holy ground. Since 1980, BJP has put up only 20 Muslim candidates for general elections, just 3 of whom have won. Most significantly, the BJP party did not give a ticket to any Muslim from Utterpradesh, the state with the largest population of Muslims in India. Prior to the 2000 parliamentary election, the largest number of Muslim candidates elected to the Lok Sabha had come from Uttar Pradesh. With the exit of sole Muslim member Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi on July 2022 from Prime Minister Narendra Modi cabinet for the first time after independence in 1947, there is no representative of the 14% Muslim community in the Union Council of Ministers. The cost of political denial is not only disenfranchisement of the minorities but also deprival of India of its classical heritage of unity in diversity protected through pluralistic model of participatory governance. The Modi regime has demonstrated that election can be won in India without the support of Muslims. In Sri Lanka, a Singhala only policy was pursued in the 1950s by the principal political parties competing to the lead party among Singhala voters, and by this policy that country reigned now. Similarly, in India, the BJP has pursued a Hindu majoritarian agenda to consolidate its position as the lead party among Hindu voters. India is in the era of desecularization, under which the Narendra Modi government is using religion as an exploitative tool. People who vote for the BJP, the poorest of them, are not voting for governance but for religion. Although anti-Muslim sentiment is rising among Hindus, not all Hindus and not all people who voted for the BJP are not Muslims. The status of Muslims has worsened after the BJP came to power in 2014, as its leadership has openly promoted hatred against Muslims, a strategy which has brought immense political gains to the BJP in form of polarization of the Hindu community. Polarizing the society on religious lines diverts the attention of voters from other pertinent issues such as employment and the state of economy. BJP government and public run day-to-day business based on social hatred and prejudice. A situation has been created to put up Hindu majority population against the Muslim minority. Muslim being demolished by media with the active support of the current BJP government. Hindutva nationalism with Muslims. The political manifestation of Hindutva dates back to Hindu reform movements such as Brahma Samaj 1828 and the Arya Samaj 1875. These reform movements transitioned into the pro-Hindu interest groups that exerted pressure on the Congress party from within. Leaders of the strident faction went on to found the Hindu Mahasabha in 1914, initially as a pressure group within the Congress party and later as a separate political entity. Among Hindu nationalists, opinions differed over the best way of revitalizing Hinduism. So in 1925, when Keshav Baliram Hedgewar formed a Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, Savarkar understood Hindutva to be a political community that was united by geography, racial connection and shared culture. Savarkar maxim of Hindi, Hindustan essentially mimicked European style nationalism based on religious identity, common language and racial unity. Since 1947, the Indian government has banned the RSS on 3 separate occasions for allegedly fomenting extremist sentiments and violating constitutional principles. Hindu nationalist believes Hindu are the true sons of the soil because their holy lands are in India, whereas the Christian and Muslim holy lands are outside it. They generally champion policies intended to make India a Hindu state. Many see Indian Muslims as suspects foreigners, despite the fact that most are descendants of Hindus who converted to Islam. Shiv Sena party in Simana editorial called for the voting rights of Muslims to be revoked and advocated the withdrawal of Muslim people rights to vote. Hindutva politics requires Muslims to abide by the law more than a Hindu needs to. Hindutva vadis have a right to break the law and get away with it, but if a Muslim does something wrong, the entire community is to be blamed. While the BJP is usually quick to condemn and politicize Islamist violence, it is silent on violent acts orchestrated by non-Muslims. In a country of 138 crore, where there are 200 million Muslims as well as millions of Sikhs, Christians, Buddhists, Zoroastrians, Jains and atheists, where the very idea of India is a synthesis of pluralized cultures and beliefs, the policy of Hindutva is outrageous and dangerous. The new mantra of the Sangh Parivar is Hindutva without Muslims is irrelevant. The RSS members have openly called for the removal of word secularism from the constitution. In this context, a dispersing feature is also the growth of Muslim fundamentalist forces who are trying to divert the growing frustration of youth into sectarian lines. One fundamentalism feeds and strengthens the other. In this case, majoritarian Hindu communalism is also helping the growth of Islamist organizations. This is not good for our communal harmony in our country. Muslims feel safer in a secular India rather than in one governed by Hindu nationalists. Congress stand with Muslims. The Congress party often religious sentiments to suit its changing political interests, a tendency that grew in intensity since Indira Gandhi. secular ignorance that is followed by Congress in 1985. The Indian Supreme Court ruled in favor of Shah Bano, a Muslim woman who contested her husband's divorce and sought alimony. Although Islamic personal law permitted the divorce, the court ruled that Indian civil law superseded Sharia. Facing uproar from Indian Muslims, then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi passed a law through the Parliament that effectively rewrote Indian civil law on Islamic divorce to comply with Sharia. This act prompted widespread outrage, which many have argued paved the way for Hindu mobilization over the Babar Masjid and its subsequent destructions. Whether secular-minded politicians have acted in certain instances out of selfish political interest, or whether they have been genuine in trying to maintain a principled distance from all religions, the result has been a general sourcing of secularism reputation in India. Now, Congress party leaders have publicly embraced their Hindu beliefs to a limited extent as a way of reclaiming Hinduism from the BJP-led Hindutva circles. Nehru, India's first Prime Minister, believed that secularism was essential to building a peaceful society, but now Congress has shifted from Nehruvian secularism to soft Hindutva. Political tensions started to strain India's secular model in the 1980s. After suffering an electoral defeat in 1977, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi exploited religious division to help return the Congress party to power. Again, Rajiv Gandhi further favored Hindus. Congress sustained a move toward Hindu majoritarians over several decades, created a fertile ground for more extreme ideology of the BJP. Since the 90s, especially after the demolition of the Babar Masjid in Ayodhya, a new era of anti-BJPism ushered in, where Muslims especially started to vote for the party that stood the best chance to defeat the BJP. In most of India, Muslims voted for secular parties to guarantee their safety and rights. But opposition parties are failing to speak out against Modi's Hindu nationalist agenda. Over the years, with the change in political atmosphere, all political parties in the race to prove themselves as more Hindu than others have abandoned Muslims. From 1950 to 2019, only 7% of the Congress candidates in Loksabha election were Muslims. The Congress has fielded only 32 Muslims out of 423 candidates in a 2019 general election. Congress looked at members only as a vote bank and did little to promote leadership within the community. The 2019 manifesto of the Congress party does not mention the word Muslim even once. AIMIM leadership at state or district level is basically taking up issues pertaining to Muslims and their areas. In sharp contrast, Congress leaders refuse to even pay lip service or speak, as they fear they would be seen as pro-Muslim and cut their Hindu base. Any political party do not want to be identified as a pro-Muslim party. The majority of Indian non-BJP political parties believes that being pro-Muslim will affect their Hindu vote bank. There is a growing feeling within the political dispensation that standing beside the Muslims can hamper the political future of these parties. The Congress and other parties fear bearing begged as anti-Hindu if they promote Muslim candidates. Hindu vote consolidation has made Muslim voters irrelevant on the electoral landscapes. Even secular parties have cut down on their tickets to Muslims out of fear of Hindu consolidation. Since independence, India has seen many commissions and committees constituted to resolve the problems of the Muslims. These moves constitute nothing but political stunts with empty promises for the vulnerable Muslim minority. Had the Congress government been sincere about the uplifting Muslim community after the Sachar report, it should have fixed a separate quota of reservation for Muslims. What has the Congress done for the minority during all these years? It claims to be a champion of secularism, but has used the term only as a euphemism to appease Muslims and secure their votes. In 2013, the National Advisory Council (NAC) that was set up by the Congress government recommended a new communal violence bill that would have provided adequate protection to religious minorities when communal violence broke out. In fact, of a strong opposition by the BJP, the Congress government later rejected the non-communal bill recommendation fearing a Hindu backlash. Atrocities against Muslims in India. Since 2014, many Muslims have expressed concern that the BJP is further marginalizing them and that the government does not speak out against expression of anti-Muslim bigotry. Under the Bharatiya Janata Party regime, there has been a massive increase in the atrocities against Muslims across India. Atrocities against Muslims are not restricted to physically harming the community. There is a systematic discrimination against Muslims. BJP ruled states moved to rewrite history textbooks to downplay Islamic contribution to Indian history and culture. Human Rights Watch finding a rising number of attacks against Muslims accused of eating or killing house. Many Muslims say that they are avoiding taking meat or even eggs during train travel. Some Indian Muslims report fear of wearing clothing that identifying them as Muslims. Violence broke out as Muslims and others protested the Citizenship Amendment Act in New Delhi on 2020. Around 50 people were killed, most of them Muslim, in the capital city, worst communal violence in decades. Some BJP politicians helped incite the violence and police reportedly did not intervene to stop Hindu mobs from attacking Muslims. A 2021 Human Rights Watch report found that authorities had not investigated police complicity while they had charged more than a dozen protesters. Muslims overwhelmingly sided with Aam Aadmi Party in the 2020 election in Delhi Assembly, but despite winning 62 seats in the 70-member assembly, the party failed to do anything to contain the riots in the aftermath of the election result. Security and safety are major concern for Muslims today, but it seems that the secular parties are not delivering even the bare minimum. Authorities have turned to extrajudicial means to punish Muslims, though a practice critics call bulldozer justice. In 2022, authorities in several states destroyed people's home, alleging that the demolished building lacks proper permits. However, critics said they primarily targeted Muslims, some of whom had recently participated in protests. In response, India's Supreme Court said that demolition cannot be retaliatory, though the practice has continued. Several bulldozers demolished the homes of poor Muslim families in Jahangirpuri, New Delhi on the 20th of April 2022. The Bharatiya Janata Party lead North MCD carried out the demolition. One of the most significant outcome of the incident is that not a single prominent political leader except Madam Brinda Garanta, CPI Marxist, and Sri Azazuddin Owaisi of AIMIM went to the spot and stood beside the Muslims. This demonstrates how frightened India non-BJP political parties are to take a stand for Muslims by standing alongside them on the ground. With almost no legislator willing to speak of the fundamental right to life of more than 200 million people of Muslim in the world's largest democracy. I will ensure standing beside the Muslims cannot be a crime. Muslims in India do not need political parties to be pro-Muslims, but it would be enough if there were secular party and abided by their constitutional obligation to all citizens and communities. Major communal violence like the Aligarh riots 1978, Sambal riots 1978, Moradabad riots 1980, Kasimbara massacre 1987, Mulayana killing 1987, and Muzaffar riots 2013 occurred when Congress were in government. But despite the disappointment and disillusionment, Muslims have stood by secular parties. A 2019 report by India-based non-governmental organization Common Cause found that half of police surveyed showed anti-Muslim bias, making them less likely to intervene to stop crimes against Muslims. The Sachar Committee report holds security forces high-handedness in dealing with Muslims, responsible for creating sense of insecurity and fear among Muslims, thus creating them to resort to living in ghettos. The police individually and institutionally are empowered and emboldened by a culture of anti-Muslim sentiment. Either through fear or indifference, non-Muslims are less likely to express solidarity with Muslims or to unite with them to resist such behavior. Analyses have also noted widespread impunity for those who attack Muslims. In recent years, courts and government bodies have sometimes overturned convictions or withdrawn cases that accused Hindus of involvement in violence against Muslims. States have increasingly passed laws restricting Muslims' religious freedoms, including anti-conversion laws. One of the most common forms of anti-Muslim violence is vigilante groups attacking people rumored to trade or kill cows, which many Hindus believe are sacred. At least 44 people, most of them Muslims, have been killed by these so-called cow production groups, according to a 2019 Human Rights Watch report. Muslim men have also been attacked after being accused of a love jihad, a term used by Hindu groups to describe Muslim men allegedly trying to seduce and marry Hindu women to convert them. Hundreds of Muslim men have been arrested for violating anti-conversion laws that several BJP-led states passed in an effort to prevent love jihad. Economic and educational welfare of the predominant concern of Muslim Indians, closely followed by a sense of popular prejudice and hostility, state lawlessness and injustice, and physical insecurity. Each instance of mob violence led to the destruction of Muslim enterprises and institutions, and each instance of displacement means a separate from community institution and sources of economic activity. The physical insecurity of Muslims has led them to acquiescence in increasing physical and cultural separation from non-Muslims, and the term apartheid is sometimes used to describe this situation. Muslim localities suffer from very poor or non-existent water, sanitation, public transport links and banking services. Muslims are the second largest community after Hindus in India. With around 200 million Muslims, India is home to 10.9% of the world Muslim population, third only Indonesia and Pakistan. How then can they be ghettoized and outcast? How then be lynched and killed in public? Since when has it become more important to protect the cow than to protect a fellow human being? As many as 20 out of 28 states in India currently have various regulations prohibiting either the slaughter or sale of cows, but not one has a law against mob lynching or hate crimes. The US Commission on International Religious Freedom, an independent government agency, classified India as a country of particular concern, its lowest rating for the first time since 2004. Genocide Watch put out a genocide warning. Muslims in India are under threat on the brink of genocide, which is not good for our country reputation in international affairs. Interfaith dialogue is one of the solutions and strategies to bridge the gap between the communities. Any attempt to eradicate Muslim identity or diminish it is to tear the national fabrics. Muslims want to live a respectable life without any political prejudice. Affirmative action for Muslims. About a third of the Muslim villages with a high concentration of Muslims do not have any educational institutions. The density of schools within 3 kilometers of Muslim dominated locality is much lower than the national average. Ghettoization and insecurity have grown among Muslims after the demolition of Babar Masjid in 92. As a result, the percentage of the Muslim children attending school and university has significantly gone down. Muslims also have the highest illiteracy rate of 42.7%. The graduation attainment rates and mean years of schooling amongst Muslims are very low and dropouts rates are very high. It is estimated that 1 out of 25 students enrolled in an undergraduate program, 1 out of 50 enrolled in a postgraduate program is a Muslim. There can be a long-term adverse effect on the community, which in turn have had an overall impact on the larger national economy. Muslim communities should move away from religious